So we'll be glad to take any questions, but the bottom line is this. The Biden administration is hurting the poorest families in our country. The people on fixed income, they can't stay up with these price increases. Our poor families, their wages are never going to go up as fast as these price increases. So they're hurting the poorest families in our country. Right now it's happening all across this country. So be glad to answer any questions anybody has. Yes.
What would you say to the White House argument that these increases in prices are just transitory, that 1 month does not make a trend, and that this is a natural part of the economy's adjustment to reopening?
Right. Well, these are pretty big price increases. We were I was with Jay Powell. He said we wouldn't see inflation of more than 2.5%. This is a lot higher. Look at CPI now, 4.2%. Commodity prices up 16%. It doesn't look like it's very transitory. And by the way, if you look at these numbers from February, so before COVID to now, the numbers are still just this bad. So, you never know what's going to happen. But if you look at all the things that they're doing, whether it's the tax increases, the regulatory reform, all these things are causing prices to go up. And it's going to hurt the poorest families in our country.
Senator, the price of milk went up 9% from 2019 to 2020. Why did that happen? Would you have blamed that on the Trump administration?
I would blame it on reckless government spending. I've been complaining about the risk of inflation since I got up here. I believe excessive government spending, when you run big deficits, when you see the Federal Reserve balance sheet go from $4 to $8 trillion, when you see money supply going up 25%, you're going to see inflation. So all this, but today, this year, already $1.9 trillion, anticipating to spend $7.1 trillion. This will be nothing as compared. It'll be way worse than this.
You also have to keep in mind that same period of time wages went up, largely due to the Jobs and Tax Cuts Act.
Just to point out. So if you go back and look at the time I was governor of Florida, that's exactly what Senator Tillis said, is that we started seeing our wages go up, which is the best thing you can see. If you can see all wages go up, not just wages for the rich, it has the biggest impact on our country.
Yeah. So inflation occurs when we have too much cash chasing too few commodities, too few products out there. And this will not be transitory if we keep paying people an extra $300 per week to stay at home. What that's doing is bottling up and creating more shortages. For instance, in the meat marketing program, we have, 75% of the nation's beef processing in Kansas, and we can't get people to come back to work. So that's creating an artificial shortage of beef, which is driving up the price of meat at the grocery store.
Senator Scott.
Yes.
Officer Sicknick's mother just put out a statement saying that not having a January 6th commission to look into exactly what occurred is a slap in the face of all the officers who did their jobs that day. She's asking to meet with Republican senators who are going to vote against the January 6th commission. I believe all 6 of you or 7 of you will. What's your message to Officer Sicknick's mother, and will you meet with her?
Sure. Well, first of all, I meet with people all the time, and I'm very supportive of law enforcement. I talk to sheriffs and police chiefs all across Florida constantly. I talked to one yesterday. What happened on January 6th is despicable. Everybody needs to be held accountable. The FBI has already arrested, I think, over 400 people. They're holding people accountable. We have 2 committees right now doing a report. We'll get that report in the next, I think, 2 weeks.
I'll take one more question.
Yes, sir.
Spending, is your concern about reckless spending a plan of long-term infrastructure? The White House would say long-term investments in the economy aren't going to cost the immediate price.
Well, I'll invest in infrastructure if it's called roads, bridges, airports, and seaports. I did $85 billion in my 8 years as governor. I think their original so-called infrastructure bill had $115 billion over 10 years for the whole country. It wasn't infrastructure. But the way we did in Florida, we did it where we could cut taxes and reduce our debt. I paid off in the same 8 years a third of the state debt, and we cut taxes 100 times. What they're doing up here is they're saying they want to spend all this money on so-called infrastructure. It's not, and they want to raise taxes. So you can't be, and they want to run up the debt. You can't do that.
So let me add. I think we all would agree that we do need to invest in infrastructure, but it has to be true infrastructure. But there's a way of doing it without adding to the federal debt. It's called repurposing the more than $700 billion of the COVID relief bill that was going to be spent in years 2022 through 2028. So that obviously is not COVID relief. So you've got that pile of money there that we can just repurpose. And, $700 billion would be a very good down payment on true infrastructure spending.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.